with all the possibilities, I am constantly, daily, depending upon my colleagues to consider the proper use of communications. It can be, as everyone knows, wonderful and also something of a nightmare. So I think the difference then is we have a world behind us now. We have our voices. We just need to continue to find good ways to present them to the world.
It's the last one I did was some talk show in LA. They were very useful. And then it got to the point where it was the same thing of the questions tended to be, what was your name before? And have you had the sex change operation? It was very much about the external experience or the titillation factor. And what was not addressed was the internal journey, which for me was most of it. And I was just like, I don't want to do this. If I'm going to be interviewed, I want it to be about my work.
I've been in many unauthorized marches, including many unauthorized trans marches. We actually asked the existing Pride infrastructure for support, which they subsequently denied. So far from being running against, as mentioned earlier, the challenge of folks who believe that equity is a scarce commodity, and if they give other people a fair shake, then there somehow will be not enough equity left over for them. And so we marched without the help of what might be considered to be traditional allies.
As trans people, we have had a vision of who we are, and then subsequently went about manifesting that vision. That in and of itself is something to be joyful about. And it speaks to the determination, the creativity, the adaptation of this community and of the individuals that make up this community. And that when I think about the power of that, it brings me joy. And so I think joy plays a role in helping us to continue on the journey.
Towards the end of my career, I just could not do this coming out thing anymore in the RCMP and explaining all this stuff. And I'd done it many times before as a Indigenous woman, the first or second, and coming out, queer, lesbian, here we go. So by the time I got to my retirement in 2010, I kind of ran out of gas. And no, I don't feel like explaining myself to everybody and educating them anymore. I'm really tired. So yeah, my identity was all wrapped up into a lot of things, and trans two-spirit, but culture and identity as a First Nations person is always who I am. And that's first and foremost.
I teach university, and so I'm teaching young people, and I had a visitor to one of my classes who was a high school student and who identified as somewhere on the trans plus spectrum. I don't know exactly where. And they came up to me at the end of the class and they said to me, I am so glad that I was here today because I've never met a trans adult before. So that tells us something about how much we need to reach out across those generations.
One of the common experiences of youth that maybe gets magnified for trans people and for trans youth is that feeling of like, well, I had to invent my whole existence, out of nothing, pull it out of myself. And to the degree that you then start to move outward and gain input, whether it's online or in community or from elders or from kinship structures, there's still that kind of initial like, well, I felt like I was facing this on my own, or that I was, the first person ever to go through this. And that might be something people feel at any age, but I'm sure it wears particularly hard on young folks. And so I think it's really it's really fascinating, and it just offers a different kind of perspective to be able to place yourself, maybe not literally, but to understand that people have successfully navigated the situations that you're in 50, 60, 70, 80, as far back as you want to go, but especially, maybe in the last century, when there's something about those stories that really resonate.